I'm gonna now get ourselves into trouble by going into a discussion on the new tech that we've been talking about since earlier. The words like Metaverse, non-fungible tokens, decentralized financing, and Web 3.0. Big words, I believe. And I think the big question right now is readiness of Malaysia to adopt these kind of technology. And here I'd like to just go back to KP, because I think one of them, decentralized financing, is something that would be relevant to you. And in fact, Irene as well, since you've got fintech in yours. Do you see you guys working towards decentralized financing, or are you doing decentralized financing? Maybe you guys can share a bit about your thoughts on this. Maybe we start with KP.
Yeah, I mean, DeFi is definitely something that we are looking into, but I think very early stage. Basically, we are just trying to figure out what are the use cases for us, and basically just familiarizing and getting a hang of things.
Still getting to know lah. Still getting
correct. It's not something that I think we'll be rolling out in the immediate future, right? So say next year. But it's definitely something that we are keeping a close eye on.
We can talk about the I guess what it takes to get there, or challenges that you guys see. And maybe Irene, you can jump in here as well. Challenges you can see in terms of us trying to get to the level where we are ready to adopt something like that, DeFi for fintech.
I think government regulations, the readiness of regulatory, framework to regulate some of the segments is very important, because these are ultimately new things, and if you don't regulate it properly, or you don't have a proper regulatory framework, you either stifle it from developing, or it goes out of hand. And I think this is sort of the approach that we take when we enter into every new market, because to be honest, we are one of the pioneers when it comes to digital financing in most of the markets that we are in. And sometimes they tend to have no regulations yet in the markets that we are in. And that's where we need to engage very closely with the regulators to try to promote and push through thought leadership in how we can sort of regulate and manage these segments, right? I think the other big piece I think that Irene have sort of alluded to earlier is, the readiness of talents in this part of the world. And I mean, the competition of talent, especially tech talent, is real, right? You have all the big guys, including Asia Digital, trying to build up the digital presence and their tech offerings. So a lot of them are based in Singapore, and for obvious reasons. So a lot of the tech talent sort of get sucked out into those countries, because that's where most of the companies are hiring. But of course, we have seen some corporates where they've sort of reversed the trend by setting up their tech center here and basically trying to reverse the brain drain or to build up internal talents here. So I think that piece is actually very critical. So as part of our education system, are we putting in place the necessary foundation to develop talent in these segments, right?
Will AirAsia Academy ever go into education of this kind of new tech, not just DeFi, Metaverse, Web 3.0, NFT, all this? Will you ever, Irene?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've already told our director of innovation and strategy when I saw these names that you mentioned, like, oh my God, we got to start building knowledge on these areas, right? Like decentralized financials, the blockchain part, the metaverse, the Web 3.0, because everybody wants to learn about it. So thank you for alerting me that, Matissa. But I agree with KP. Sorry, I called you Kien Poon.
Yeah, that's his name.
I agree with him that I don't think Malaysia is ready. It's a very challenging place for Malaysia to, with the blockchain regulation and that kind of thing. It's something that, yes, we want to work on, and I'm sure it's going to be very beneficial. But we got to work on that policies and regulation first to allow us.
And I think connectivity is another thing as well, right? Connectivity in rural areas.
Yes, definitely. It is. I mean, if you look at certain rural areas, there's no connectivity at all. So I think what government needs to do is like to make sure that digitalization or digital economy is accessible to all, not just a few.
Yeah.
Especially the rural areas, it has to be affordable too, and it's inclusive as well, right? So that should be the main priority for them, because otherwise we're just building the gap even bigger by not including the B40s and rural areas in this whole thing that we needed to do as a digital economy. Yeah,
I think the one that has so far revealed any idea about metaverse. I mean, there are quite a few conversations going on in the tech spectrum, but the one that has gone all out to do this, Facebook, they've even got this whole video to even explain how their metaverse work for home, for work, and all that. Do you guys see this as something that you would be interested to work towards? Media, lifestyle, even funding, because I'm sure funding, you have, funding, the pitches to the investors, which can also be metaversed rather than face-to-face. What do you guys think of that? Will we ever get there, if not next year?
I think it will. I mean, like even for our own aviation needs and wants, training using, because I was experimenting with HoloLens, and I thought, hey, this could be a great thing to get to speed up training, right? Because like, how do we speed up training for the aircraft engineers so that they can do the training using the holograms and stuff like that, or even the pilots before they get onto the simulator, they usually have this training in classroom called MFTD, where only 2 people can go in. Like, how do we scale it up using this technology for that? But there's also other opportunities, right? How do you immerse the user into going into a certain destination as a teaser, so they could feel what it would be if they go to Sapporo, for instance, right? And then trigger the interest, and then they can purchase the tickets and so forth. So there are many aspects to do that. I'm sure at some point where you could use it to scale up, and the cost is, the unit cost is good, then definitely is, and there's a purpose for it, then there's a real usage for it, right?
I can see your mental mode when it comes to adopting changes. You're going back to the fundamentals. If it has anything to do with my revenue going up or my cost going down, that is something that is relevant for AirAsia to look at, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah,
that's a very good. I think that's a really good practice there. And again, I can see that you're sticking to your the other fundamental, which is to ensure that there's seamless customer experience that you're preserving. And as long as that has something to do with that, then that's something that you will take into account of. What about Azeem and KP? Metaverse.
So the metaverse is another virtual world that is being built at the moment. Initially, a week ago, I wasn't too concerned about it, but when Manisa brought it up to me earlier this week and I started to look at it, hey, the people are spending real money there. In that world, people buy land for 2 million USD. There's a painting, one painting sold for 70 million USD. It's crazy. And cryptocurrency, its value is being backed and supported because of the activity that's going on the metaverse. But my thinking is, if we were to leverage on it, there are 2 major hurdles. First is hardware. The hardware that requires for us to get into the metaverse is HoloLens or the, so not HoloLens, the virtual headset, right? That is not very cheap, and you don't see it in people's houses. But I think just like the PC, it might be a mainstream item. The second is internet speed. 5G needs to be there. You need to have fiber optics. It has to be accessible by everyone. Then only will you be able to enter the metaverse. But something seriously is going on there. There's a new economic ecosystem being grown in that spectrum, and it would be unwise for us, especially me in media. We are in media to ignore it. And the metaverse at the moment is about building the world, and it's about putting content together. So there is many opportunities for Malaysians to actually get on and to create this world. And we as media company, we very much are looking at it already to see how the metaverse could be the next big thing we should leverage on, because it is claimed that the metaverse is a successor to social media. One went as far as to say that it is a successor to the internet. So it's not our call, but something that we have already started looking at seriously to see how content can be created in that world and how new opportunities could be presented to Malaysians moving forward.
It's interesting that in the example that you saw, they were applying NFT in Metaverse. That means you could purchase an irreplaceable item with the token in the Metaverse, and that is interesting because it seems that all this new tech could actually work together rather than separately. And KP, you're not off the hook. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, frankly speaking, it's not technology that I'm very familiar with, but I think like all new technologies, we'll be keeping a close eye.
Yeah.
Now, for instance, if it becomes like what Azeem said, it replaces it is the next internet, or it is the next big social media platform where everyone will congregate. That's where I think we need to make sure that we are present there as well to sort of engage the community, which is presence in this metaverse, right? So for us, yeah, no big plans to jump into metaverse, but obviously keeping a close eye so that we can react accordingly.
I remember conversations on the cloud, or going on the cloud, started 5 to 10 years before people were comfortable going on it. And I'm glad that we're starting, or we're part of the conversation today. Although I think all of us are kind of like, I wouldn't like to say clueless, because we somewhat know what we're talking about, what these are, but it's just that we all don't have in-depth knowledge into them and how they would apply to our organizations. But everything starts with conversation and media. I think media plays a big role in taking this conversation further, and I'm looking forward to hear more about this. So let's see in 5 years' time, maybe we can have a reunion of this conversation and see where we all are in terms of the new tech, and see how we are all taking the technology further with whatever that we are doing at that point of time. How about that? Okay, all right. So